Joining us now is Sarah Huckabee from the Trump campaign. She's a senior advisor. She's vice president of Samatalis Strategies. That's hard to say. That Samatalis Strategies.
No, I'm actually independent these days and working with the Trump campaign and a couple of others. So
all right, I got it. So I don't have to worry about how to pronounce your company.
You're okay,
Sarah. So the president clearly sees his legacy on the line here. He made that speech yesterday in Indiana for the purposes of burnishing his own legacy and protecting it from Donald Trump. And he leveled very specific criticisms at the lies about how poorly the economy is doing. And Donald Trump came back last night in Sacramento, and it was pretty general. I mean, are we going to see more specifics from the Trump campaign on both policy and critiques beyond just he's a disaster, et cetera, et cetera?
Absolutely, and I think we've seen that. I mean, he's done that on several of the other big issues where there's a lot of contrast between himself and Obama and what would likely be a continuation of Obama through Hillary Clinton in his national security speech, his energy speech just last week. And I think you're going to continue to see more and more things like that as we get closer to the general election. And now that we're in a general election, the time is to draw that sharp contrast between himself and the Democrats. You know, the last year he has spent trying to battle it out with 16 other candidates in the Republican primary. Now that he's the presumptive nominee, he can turn all of his sights on that contrast in the general election against the Democrats.
Well, I understand that, but we see in California, of course, in a general election matchup, he's behind both Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. New poll that came out yesterday, he's 4 or 5 points down from Clinton, and Bernie Sanders actually does even better. I think he's 9 points up on Trump. And again, these polls don't mean all that much at this point. But
well, and that's also California, but Trump's putting other states like Pennsylvania, Ohio in play that in some cases haven't been on the board for Republicans. And so I think he's certainly changing the dynamic of the general election matchup. I don't think that means every single state, but it's places like New Jersey where Trump is doing extremely well. Republicans.
Well, the new poll that came out yesterday, he's down in New Jersey. How many points, Drew? He's down like 5 points and 6 points in New Jersey against Hillary.
But for a Republican, I think it's typically 15 or 20 points, and we're just getting started.
There was conversation today about Paul Ryan. That Paul Ryan, they went on and on MSNBC, and Joe Scarborough generally likes Donald Trump, I think, and even Mika Brzezinski seems to like him a lot. But their point was, unless Donald Trump takes it away from constant insults to more specific policy speeches, giving people a real sense of what is possible, that it's the right thing to do for Paul Ryan to sit back and not endorse him. I mean, they had a conversation that must have gone on 25 minutes about how Paul Ryan's doing the right thing. What would you say about that?
I couldn't disagree more. I don't think that it's Paul Ryan needs to get on board like the rest of the Republican Party across the country that have come out and supported Donald Trump in margins bigger than any other Republican in history during the primary process. And whether or not he was everybody's first choice, he's the people's choice, and Republican leadership across the board, except for Paul Ryan, has gotten on board, and I think he will. And they've started a very open and honest conversation, and I think they're working towards that. I think one of the big things that people are missing is that Donald Trump has done an infinitely better job uniting Republicans than Hillary Clinton has uniting Democrats. She started off this race with only 4 candidates and still has yet to clinch the nomination. And Donald Trump has beat out 16 other Republican candidates and extremely qualified Republican candidates. And so I think that's one of the big points that's being lost is everybody's talking about how he hasn't unified Republicans. Yes, he has. I mean, again, he's won in record numbers, and he's beat out 16 other candidates, and he's the presumptive nominee, and Hillary Clinton is still battling it out and may even lose in California coming up.
What do you think about the fact that a lot of and the New York Times has a piece on this today, a lot of the big Republican donors and some former governors and so forth are skipping the convention, and they're finding it difficult. This is a Jeremy Peters piece. They're finding it difficult to get sponsors for the Republican convention, typically that have a lot of corporate sponsors. in this year, it seems like a lot of these bigwig Republicans are finding that their schedules are very busy and they're not able to make it to the Republican convention. Does that in any way hurt, or does the campaign need to do more to kind of, again, I hate to use the phrase, seem more presidential, but I'll say it, seem more presidential, so more of these Republicans feel like, okay, this is cool, we're going to win this, and he's going to continue to, build what the base out to independents, women, minorities, etc.
No, I certainly don't think it hurts him. As we've seen in this election, the more the establishment gets behind you, the further back you fall. So I think Donald Trump, maybe not having some of these people, in a lot of people's eyes, may actually be seen as a bonus. And for every one of them that doesn't show up, I think there's probably 100 people that would love to take their place.
But you guys are raising money from a lot of these establishment people. I mean, I know that for a fact. I mean, believe me, I can't stand the establishment either.
To come, that's fine.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I can't say, Sarah, you know me. I mean, I'm like the most anti-establishment person out there. But also, I am pragmatic, and you can't fight an internal war and an external war at the same time. You can't continue to fight a civil war and look like you're attacking Republicans and fight the Democrats. I think that's an impossible task for the best of the politicians out there. And that's my only point. So whether it's Susana Martinez or any other comments about other Republicans who are kind of holding back, it seems to me that it's just spitballs off a battleship. I mean, he just needs to keep moving forward, but building on that base, which requires, and again, I'm someone who obviously wants him to win, but requires him to sometimes drop some of the insults and hit with policy refutation after policy refutation. To me, that's a way to get a lot of these women on your side, even more minorities looking twice at your campaign. I think that's just a really positive thing. And if an occasional establishment person says, I'm with you, I think that's okay too.
Right, and I don't think that he's been like, no, we don't want anybody from the establishment. So I don't want that to sound like that was my point. And there have been a lot of people that have come on board. I mean, the entire House leadership has gotten on board with Donald Trump, except for Paul Ryan. And so I think, again, a lot of those people are coming on board, and there's a few that haven't. They're the exception, not the rule. But my point is, I don't think it's necessary to have every single one of them, and we're not going to spend all of our time focused on not having one or two people when we have the millions of Americans that have come out and supported him. Okay. But I do agree we have to continue to build on that, and we're doing that. And for some of those donors that aren't engaging, you have guys like Sheldon Adelson, who is committing, record number of dollars to support Donald Trump. So I think there's a good balance there, and he's finding that kind of as he builds and moves towards the general election.
We're talking to Sarah Huckabee here on the Laura Ingraham Show. This is a short clip from Trump yesterday in California. This was a late-night event in Sacramento, and a comment from one of the folks on Morning Joe. Let's listen.
Hillary Clinton, who lies, she lies. You remember that? I started that. She lies.
I ran into Michael Cohen, who obviously who's Trump's lead counsel, one of his top people. I saw him restaurant. He goes, "This is going amazing. This is going great. We're going to win New Jersey." And I think there's an insularness that within the campaign they're kind of closed off and just so pumped on each other that not necessarily in touch and perhaps even a little delusional.
What's your reaction to his comment?
Well, I mean, to say that, the team is not in touch, I think is pretty laughable. Donald Trump has been out there more than any other candidate, interacting with voters, sitting down with members of the press, taking questions, something Hillary Clinton has failed to do. So to act like he's out of touch, I think is frankly just kind of laughable and ridiculous and not really worth a whole lot of time.
Sarah, are you traveling with a candidate? Are you in New York? What specifically are you doing for the campaign?
Not traveling a whole lot. I have, like you, I'm a mom. I've got 3 kids under the age 4 and under.
Oh, gosh.
I do not get to leave for long periods of time to make sure that my house is still standing when I come home.
So you'll be doing television appearances and occasional
helping with messaging and overall.
Well, I think there's an enormous amount that you can do with the women's vote, and again, a substantive appeal for economic renewal that will grow this economy and I think bring America back to a position of dominance and ultimately world affairs, but economic affairs, which is what most women need and want. So, Sarah, I'm glad you're on the campaign, and thank you so much for joining us for a few moments today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being on.
All right, we'll take a break on the Laura Ingraham Show.